Dear listeners, we're still with our topic of blended families. It's good to be here. I hope you will enjoy. And next to me is Sister Grace, who will introduce today's topic in blended families.
Good day, viewers. How are you? Mama G, Blended Families. So today we are still continuing with the blueprint of the Bible, and we are going with another interesting topic. You know, when I'm learning about these families in the Bible, I'm actually enjoying. So today we are discussing about the family of David. Ooh, there's a lot to learn from there. And just a small summary, brief history that I just did catch when I was doing some research on David. I did see that David actually came to have 21 children. And last week we were talking about 12 are a lot.
Double this week.
And it's double this week. And I'm wondering how this family survived, you know. And I remember when we were just speaking before we came here, we said David had his first son, Amnon. Amnon. What?
Absalom.
Amnon it's Amnon, not Absalom is the other one.
I see. Yes.
Yes. So Amnon is the son who did rape the sister.
Yes.
But before we go there, we are just looking at the dynamics of David, his character. We said, what is the character of David? Which people does he represent, David, in terms of blended family? Which type of men does he represent, or type of women does David represent? We want to learn about this David. How does he fit into this blended family?
Yes. I would think David was a very dynamic person. You can see from the young age where he was in his father's house, the way he, in his faith, confronted the soldiers around him to say, you come to me with you, but I come to you in the name of the Lord. So faith, and he lived out his faith. Whether it was while he did the work in his father's house, or when he actually wanted to do more than what the soldiers do in overcoming an enemy of God. So he was a go-getter. He was also fair and beautiful and handsome, and he could play a musical instrument. Now any woman knows if a man can play a musical instrument and write poetry and songs and sing. So there was the side of him that was a soldier, there was a side of him that was an artist, there was a side of him that was a musician. So he had all his talents, and of course, God also said he had a characteristic. He's a man after God's own heart, meaning he wanted to make it right. He wanted to, when he made a wrong, he wanted to make it right. He also wanted to obey God's word. So I think all in all, David really portrayed a charismatic leader, a man that went to battles, and amazingly, with all those fights in the Bible that he won, he had no lesion on his body, no injury, the way God preserved him through all those battles. And of course, he was the most mightiest king in Israel's history.
Okay, thank you. And that's an interesting history. You know, when you are talking of David, maybe people would just think of him. Remember, we introduced him as a man with 21 children, and now we are hearing his side of the spiritual background. That's what she was telling us. And we want to catch there where David gets his first wife from Solomon, from who was from Saul, not Solomon,
King Saul.
from King Saul, and that was his first wife. He was given as a welcome to say, you are now working for me, so now you can have this, my daughter, as your what, as your wife. But we see that David did not stay for so many years with the wife, because the wife was disobedient, and we hear David going, making women the Abigails, and at the other time he took Uriah's wife, and all other women we cannot name here, where because of his ability to fight, his ability to sing, women just loved him. And David represents those men who are players, who are not serious. Because we are not actually told that David stayed for such, we are not told about these women if he died with them. But what we know is he had children with these women. And other women, he would have like 2 children, like for the instance of the mother of Solomon, what's her name? Bathsheba. She had 3. The one who died, then Nathan, then Solomon. Then the other women, I'm not sure if Abigail had a child, but all these women, we are not even told if they stayed with David. But what we know, all in total, from different type of women that David had, he actually came to have 21 children. But from David now, we want to learn from him, we want to learn the characteristics which come from children who grow up without the attention of both the father and the mother. So these children, they are not living in one home. Remember, on these other families that we were discussing about, the Abraham family, the Jacob family, these children were living in one house. And hence we see the difference of saying there is jealous and all that. But now these children, they are staying with their mothers there where they are, and the father is staying alone. He has just fathered the children, but he does not give attention, or he is not involved 100%. I don't see his involvement in the children, but I see him having children with so many different wives until the children, they come up to 21. So we see development of characteristics that develop in children who comes from unfathered house. So from David now, we are learning the lesson where we talk about single parents dynamics in a blended family. You see, when we talk about single parents, we cannot sublime them from blended. The reason being is they are single parents not because their husbands or the father of their children have died. The father is there somewhere. Maybe he's not married. He's just living, but he doesn't care about the well-being. Yes, he's not involved, or yes, in the house rules, but the husband is there. Or else they are single parents, but the husband is married somewhere. So the family of David gives us another view of where we get the single parents getting involved into the blended family, because it's a husband who has left the children, but he is living somewhere, enjoying life with another woman or alone. What you get from there?
I can understand in terms of the dynamics of King David, the times that he was given wives, as you say. So there would be that. Obviously, it's not the usual wife in terms of the wife of your youth, in terms of the one you love and you would want to be with the rest of your life. It was by virtue of his role and by virtue of what he portrayed, the dominion he had, that he ruled over other populations that he won and overcome. So indeed, it was not an easy place to be, because he also ran the country. He also had decisions to make in terms of the affairs of state, running the military, looking at the economics.
So in other words, you are actually saying David represents the busy mothers, the busy parents in a blended family. It's not like you want to be absent, but your life is busy.
It's too busy.
It's
Affairs.
too occupied with the affairs
That's
of the family, the affairs of the world. You are running a business, or the job requires you to be there 24 hours, 24/7, and it's not like you don't want to be there.
What about the times that David had to flee for his life? He was in exile. He didn't in the caves. In other words, he could not be part of the household. He could not be, his whereabouts could not be known.
Okay.
You know? So in other words, that also portrays that the absenteeism from his home or the household is not just because of who is and life choices, but that he is in a threat.
Okay, so we are also bringing another point here of he is present but absent. So he's a present father but absent. But this presentness of his being absent as well affects the affairs and the relations of the children. So one thing that I have noticed is the children, because they are not living together, there is not actually any unit. So each child is thinking from their own point of view. So we see here Amnon. He actually, of course, we understand that in those days a brother could marry a sister. I don't know how it used to happen, but a brother could marry a sister. So Amnon loves, we cannot say he loved, because he wanted to punish. I think he wanted to punish his father's absence through sleeping with his sister, because it says he felt like he wanted her, but after sleeping with her, the love is gone, which means there was no love at home. So David hears the story, but because David is busy as usual, he plays a blind eye, because remember, he was already playing a blind eye already in this life of these children. But now he is endangering the other children, because then the brother sees and he says, my sister cannot be treated like this. This is Absalom. Why did my father not come into this? And also that is a passive judgment or passiveness that men or parents do sometimes in terms of our children. So we are saying, okay, it's fine, you are busy. It's fine, you are obstructed with a lot of things, but you cannot be passive in everything, including the characters, because there should be some time you should have, create time, to know the characteristics which are being developed in your children, because your child would request and she would go without you as a parent noticing the movements that are happening between the children.
The one thing for me that's very clear is there were room for interventions. In other words, it happened. So there was room for, remember during the COVID period we had family meetings.
Yes.
In other words, from the highest office of our country in our living room, because the decisions made there for the countries affected our own households.
Yes.
So here we have David, the regent. Yet things happened in his own family that affected his own safety and security, because there was an uprising with his sons ultimately also. So you have the regent, you have this dynamics of the brother and the sister, and unbeknown to him was what boiled in the heart of the brother Absalom. And his revenge didn't come immediately. It came a while after, when everybody thought, no, this thing
is ironed out.
This thing has played itself out. So in other words, the distance as a father in his own household really came to it boiled so much over that it was not even safe for him amongst his own children when they had the uprising in terms of who wanted to be king after. They wanted to oust him, in other words.
So in other words, we are saying, as a parent, you are just going, birthing children, you don't care about them. But it's actually a danger to you because they can actually rise against you, and they can actually want to fight war against you as a parent. They want to uproot you from their lives. They don't care who you are, and whatever they can plan, they can do it. And we see that within their children, because remember, David is not sitting, he's busy with his work. He's not sitting to organize who is going to do what. So we see also the children not just wanting to uproot him, but all of them fighting to be who is going to take that position. And everyone wants that position that their father has. Because so we are looking at you are running around, you are a businessman, you are working someone. But remember, someone between the children that you have birthed, all of them, they know that our father is something, our parents have something. All of them, they are fighting to get that inheritance. And he did not really sit down, have time to sit down with his children to say, this is what should really happen in this family. Even though we know that at the end, he sits down with one who was Solomon to say, my son, go with the way of my fathers and all that. But we are saying he did not manage his children well while they were growing, because they were so much far apart from each other, and everyone was rising against him because of him being absent.
I think the biggest aspect of when his family affairs rolled over and the state affairs was involved, that there was insecurities, hence the involvement now of the army generals that also had to come in. It blew so out of proportion, and he couldn't even make decisions around his own sons in terms of their uprisings. He wouldn't also lift up his hands amongst his sons in terms of curbing them when the fact that he in his role as father didn't act made the children want to also challenge him in his role as the regent and as the king.
But you see there, when it comes to challenging, he also was silent. Remember when Absalom took his position, you see that David even ran away. So his silence was too much in such a way. I'm not sure, was it like he is paying for the love that he did not show them, because we hear that when Absalom, who had risen against him, died, he cried like nobody, until the general said, King, you cannot cry like that. Well, at least everyone knew what had happened. You see? So that love which he was supposed to show to his children, he is now, it's like, you are guilty of something. So when your child does like the same mistakes you have done, you feel you don't have that strength or that power or that right to say, stop what you are doing. So this is some of the things, most as parents, as fathers who are in these blended families, we have fathered or we have made children from different men. Sometimes we do not feel that strength or that obligation to say, how can I tell my child that this is the right character, this is the right way to live? Why? Because you feel, how could they listen to someone who is maybe worse than them? So this is David now. He is somehow feeling to say, I lacked to show love. Okay, Absalom did rise against me. He's running away. He's a mighty warrior. He could have just killed him. But that love within him to say, he's my child. But he cannot still stand to say, this is wrong, my child. It's some of the things that we just find in blended families, where we see a parent not sure how they can manage the affairs of their children because of the state. You know, you are just looking at your mistakes, your past mistakes, and your background and your what, and you feel, will they listen to me? But if I would counsel them, am I not suppressing the love? I must just love them. Then by showing that love, you just let them do whatever. You know, I don't know, can we call it love or what? You know, that thing that you just feel like, but they must see that I love them. And yet you are letting those other characters which are not that good to develop within the children.
You are actually sitting there and you are preaching the gospel of a Father in heaven that has these children that are doing wrong things, and that day by day, you know, God also hopes that his children won't be killing each other. So the King David was the king that was chosen by God. His predecessor was Saul, that was chosen by the family. So even there, the character that David had, love, you could see, compassion, the indecision, and then the mistakes you make as a person, and you are trying to remember when he slept with Bathsheba, he wanted to hide it, and it was Samuel that came and said, and the story was told to him about this man that had just this one little sheep, and this man with the lot came and took that one, and his reaction, so his heart was right, was, tell me who this man is. And then it was pointed out that you are the man. So we can see that that experience came through that wanting to take revenge, and then he had to look in his own life and see, and he had to confess and say, Lord, forgive me. How can I judge the next person? That's just one example of the character of David, which you also portrayed so lovely now. So in terms of his children, he was always confronted. And this is the problem with sin, and in our own lives, and sin in the lives of our children. We are confronted with our own defects all the time that we see in our children. So for me, the big lesson around what David did and did not do, it's more what David did not do, is that there were opportunities for intervention. There were opportunities where he needed to sit down with the children and make decisions, because then ultimately he could not, his generals took the decisions in the end.
Yes, and the other thing that we get from David, besides him letting the generals, you know, that thing of letting the generals, I'm just thinking, you know, you having children and letting the school and letting the aunties and letting other people to rule over the children, to take over the position that you should take as a parent. So there is David having children, and he's letting other people to do the counseling and the judgment between him and the children. But I was just thinking when you were talking, to say, you know what, we are seeing here that a home that is disorganized, especially when it's blended, it brings disunity and disorganized in terms of children. Because on David's side, we really don't see a lot of his mistakes. Of course, his mistakes, we see him having children and acting as a player who just makes children, he leaves and he takes the other one, and you know, those people who are not committed to one person. But we actually see the effects of being that type of a man or that type of a mother, the effect it brings to the children. Because on David's stage, we actually mostly see the effect it had on the children, the characteristics that were built in the children of David. So we are seeing people who want, you know, they want to fight for what their father have, and we are seeing rapists coming from there. We are seeing murderers as well. So we are seeing rivalry between the two children. Remember, the two brothers. It's the two. Yes. Then we see it was Solomon who was supposed to take the position, but the other brother came after David died. He's the one who wants to take it. And it took a while until people came and declared that Solomon was the king. So David also did not actually, when you have children like that, it means you need to actually sit and talk who is going to run after you, your business, when it comes to, so an issue of inheritance come here on the issue of David and the children. So as a father, as a parent, plan how the inheritance will go when you have those children which are like that. Remember, there are different mothers. It's not one mother. When it's one mother and we are 21, usually it's done in unity because we have that bond which comes through our mother. And when it's one father as well, it's the same. It's just that one unity where we think we are real sisters. But the moment the other one will think, I'm subjected, or maybe this one will have an advantage, even though they knew that this position is for Solomon. No one wanted to give Solomon because they also thought we are also David's children. So they had a right, but he did not leave it actually put on the plain paper so that no one would feel jealous, because he would have made the other ones, he would have given them position. He was a king after all. He took the other men to be his soldiers, and what he could have also enrolled these other sons so that they feel they are involved in their father's business.
Absolutely. I think is one of the toughest things when you, despite as one of the children, despite your abilities, maybe you're the fastest runner, you'll be the best soldier, but you know you will not rise to king. So I'm not sure, the Bible is not so very clear in terms of if Solomon, being the successor, was knowledgeable throughout, but it also points out to the Bible that says and teaches us, let your yes be yes and your no, no. So if he has promised the mother, this child will be the king and the successor, so he had to honor that promise, which also then gives some aspect of the character of David in terms that, but we also don't know what the circumstances was around that promise, what it was compared, between the wives that made David make that promise, because we also know that Bathsheba's husband was a true soldier. He wanted the best interest for David and the nation of Israel. And one day, hopefully, they say that when Jesus comes, both David and Uriah will rise and they'll find each other. He had to explain why he killed him and took his wife. But the point I'm trying to make is that what happened, and as we know with David, and it's the nature he has in wanting to make wrong things right. He had a part in ending that man's life. That man's mission at that point in time was in the interest of the country and in the interest of David himself. So it might even be in that character of his, for restitution, that he made that promise in terms of succession. We don't know, it's just an aspect.
Yes, and then we also see that even when David died, he had repented, because we hear that he was given a young girl to warm him when he was sick, but he did not do anything. He preferred to have been given his original wife. So we are looking also at men who repent afterwards, and they think that I've played enough and I messed my life around, and I am actually left with no women after all this playing, and I'm now big and old with no one. I'm thinking of going back to my wife. We hear stories of that. Someone wanting to go back to his wife, and so So it's not new. You know, a lot of women will come and say, why do men come back after they've gone? It's not new.
Yes.
David also thought of that when he was
Absolutely.
in his deathbed, thinking back
You were so
of
right.
his.
You were
Imagine.
so right. You were so right. So then they discover, after having gone from this woman to that woman to the other woman to this love affair to that the problem is actually me. There's something within me that's not satisfied. So it's not the woman that brings this wholeness. It's that I have to work through some things in my life, which with the first one that was actually the one that I was represent my strength, that represent my who I am. So I might just as well go from where I started off, because I experienced and I discovered the person that I had to work on was myself. So yes, but the sad part of this experience is the other party might have moved on.
Yes.
So that's the risk. Hence, when it comes to the relationships, and what was intended is for you to grow together, that you wife, it forms part of developing the character unto perfection, because no one is perfect, but to bring out the best version of myself. That is the role of the wife. That is the role of the husband. So here now on deathbed, David realized, she would have been the one that I could have grown old with, and then the one that would have been, I would have been the best version of myself.
And it was too late.
Too late.
So, thank you, viewers. Such an interesting views here from the lessons that we learned from the family of David. You know, we are saying it's not too late as a husband. You've been a player. You are actually alone now. But you left your wife 20, 30 years ago, and you are just thinking, can I take the steps back? Yes, you can. If she is still available, that's the condition. And what else can we do? But we are saying everyone is represented in the Bible. So it's not new. It's not happening to you only, my sister. You have been left and you have a child, and this man is just going around, and you heard that, he has got another one, he has got another, he has got. David was like that, and he was never serious with any one of them. He was just going. What he was busy with was his business and his kingship. But still, after all, he repented at the back. So we are saying, you know, we must repent in whatever we do as long as it is wrong. But we are also saying, being in a blended doesn't mean that you are neglected. God has actually remembered you, because from the tribe, from the children of David, we are hearing now, that's where the lineage, where we hear that Jesus from the tribe of David, from all those 21 children, one carries the lineage of Jesus.
Absolutely. They say the best, in the most important and the most significant, the most assurance, better than your insurances that you get by Sanlam or Discovery, is that of a covenant. Meaning, a covenant provides assurance that the outcome will be throughout the ages. So what happened between Isaac, Jacob, Abram, Isaac and Jacob to David's lineage is that assurance that the Messiah will come through that bloodline. So despite from us human beings, our mistakes and our parenting skills, it's God that remains faithful. It requires obedience to God to then also be part of this inheritance from heaven, even though there is all these promises within families.
Okay, so in closing, we are just saying, you know what, whatever blended family that you are in, you are just being challenged. We learned about Abraham. Are you from the line of Abraham? You know the type of blended family you are. Are you in the type of Jacob? Are you in the type of David? whatever you are, make it right with God. God is just saying the brokenness which is in there, because all of them, we hear that at the end they repented. Well, this is why we can hear that the 12 names are there. It was because Jacob repented in his last days. David repented. In his lineage, still there is coming Jesus. So you are blended and blessed. You are blended and loved. God made sure that blended families, you are remembered in the lineage of Jesus. Amen.